In this video, we're going to be making a simple stamina system. So I'm not sure if I want to get to it in this video for the sake of time, but for right now, what we're definitely going to be doing is setting up so when you sprint, your player will lose stamina, and when you're walking, your player's stamina will regenerate. So we're just going to start at like 100, and as you sprint, it's going to slowly go down. Once you hit 0, you will not be able to sprint anymore, but let's say your stamina regenerates to 5, you will still not be able to sprint. You won't be able to sprint until your stamina reaches a minimum of 10. So that kind of acts as like a little bit of a cooldown. I guess you could say like a little breathe time for your character to breathe. That's just something I like in games like Squad, for example. I believe that's one of them that does this. So first thing we're going to want to do is set up our inputs. So when the player presses shift, we sprint, releases shift, we stop. So we go here to settings, project settings, input, and we're doing 2 more action mappings. First thing, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this reset VR. I'm going to be taking the VR stuff out of this project as well. So we're going to add a new action mapping. Just call it sprint. Let's set it to shift, left shift, and go here and file save. Now we can head to our Visual Studio project. Over here to survivalcharacter.cpp. Actually, let's just remove some of the VR stuff. So survivalcharacter.h. Remove on reset VR. And these 2 touch options for the controllers. And that's good for now. Scroll to the top. You can remove that header. And just these functions here. And these 3 inputs. And we should be good to go. Yep. Alright, so we can go ahead and add these sprinting to our character. So I'm just going to copy and paste the jump inputs, change them to sprint, and change a character to our survival character, because that's where we're going to have our functions. Let's go ahead and make a function for sprinting and one to stop sprinting. Do that right after I move right. Alright, so void start sprinting and void stop sprinting. Then we're going to have a Boolean value, a variable that we're going to use to hold our sprinting state. So bool b is sprinting. So let's just go ahead and right click, create a definition. There to go, there it is. And stop sprinting. Now these are going to toggle the Boolean value, so b is sprinting equals true, b is sprinting equals false. Now this is going to change how it's set up here in a second. And in our constructor, let's just by default set that to false. So b is sprinting equals false. Alrighty, so when we press and hold, actually let's set it real quick. Start sprinting and stop sprinting. Okay, so when we press our left shift, it's going to call our start sprinting function. And when we release it, it's going to call our stop sprinting function. So the idea behind this is I want to have 2 timers. One timer that's going to control our regeneration. So for example, and another timer that's going to control our decremation of our sprinting, just our stamina value, sorry. So let's say we start sprinting. Our decrementing timer is going to start running while our regeneration timer is going to be on pause. Once we stop sprinting, our decremation timer is going to be on pause, while our regeneration timer is going to be unpaused and running. So they're going to kind of continually go back and forth with one another. Now that regeneration timer, that's always going to be running pretty much non-stop unless we are sprinting. So that way, inside the function that that timer is going to be calling, it's going to continually be increasing our stamina. But if it's at 100, then it's simply not going to increase it. So let's go ahead and create 2 more functions. Actually, let's do those in our stats. We'll have our stamina actually be in here. So we'll do right below here. So actually I'm just going to copy and paste this because it has everything else I want in it, and just change this to stamina. So this is going to be a replicated value here. Derp. Set the U property, set the, I guess this would be called a tag in here. Set that to replicated. Then, and we'll set however much it gets decremented by later. Then we're going to create 2 timer handles. So F timer handle, stamina regeneration. Yeah, I think that's spelled right. Hopefully it is. And then we're just going to have our timer pretty much run and start on begin play. So let's go ahead and make a function here. Actually, below these. So it's just going to be called void regenerate stamina. I'm probably really spelling all this wrong, but I don't know. That looks right. Alright, so now we can go ahead and set up our timer. Actually, we've already included our timer manager header, so we can start it in our begin play. So we're going to do get world, get timer manager dot set timer. Then I called it stamina hand. Crap, what did I call it? Right, let's change this to stamina handle. So stamina handle, this, then the function we want to call. So U player stat component, then stamina. Here, regenerate stamina. Gonna call this probably every second, and I want it to loop, so true. Let's go ahead and make a definition for it, which will be just above get hunger. So void player stat component regenerate stamina. And if stamina is greater than or equal to, actually greater than 100, set stamina to equal 100. Otherwise, stamina, how much do we want to increase this by? Yeah, I guess 1 every second. So just increase stamina by 1. Alrighty, so this should be continually regenerating our stamina. Let's go ahead and actually set our return player stats so it prints out our stamina. Now we need to actually add a get stamina function real quick. Float get stamina. And just have that simply return our stamina. So float and simply return stamina. So we're going to call get stamina, just like so, and build. Alright, so hopefully it'll show it. Nope. Oh, one random note. I don't know if this is a normal issue or not, but you have to go to your third-person character blueprint. As you can see, we have this, and simply hit compile again. And then when you press play, it should show, which it is not for some reason. You should be returning. Yeah, that's just fine. Not that, the widget, sorry. Yes, this one. Recompile the widget, and now it'll show your stamina. So it should be increasing once every second, just like so. So we know that's good. Alright, let's go ahead and replicate it. Gonna copy and paste. And I only want to do this on the server, so if get owner role equals role authority, and because this is just simply being set up for me to get and play, this is going to continually be running on the server. So just make sure it still goes up. Yep. So that should be strictly controlled by the server. Okay, now we need to set it up to lower it. So this will be a public function. So we're going to call void lower stamina float value. I'll just do it at the end of here. Void player stat component lower stamina float value. Alrighty. So we're gonna end up setting up the server functions for this as well. But we're gonna be doing this essentially the same way we've been doing like our thirst and all that kind of stuff. So again, just save time. Just copy and paste what's in our lower thirst, where we check if our role, if it is less than authority, meaning we're a client, then we call the function to run on the server, pass in our value that we want to lower it by. Then the server lower thirst function, for example, if it's returning true, which we just have it set to always return true, it's going to do one more check to make sure that it is running on the server. It's going to recall the lower hunger or lower thirst function, in which case it will run this else if statement. It'll return true here, meaning we are the authority. Then it lowers our thirst. Actually, with how I have that set up at lower hunger, then lower thirst, okay, we'll move our lower stamina to be up there with them, just to keep everything the same order. Ready? And just copy and paste. Simple as that. Ready? And now we can set up our server functions. So u function server reliable with validation, then void server lower stamina float value. I go ahead and copy this, then bool validate float value void implementation float value. Then we just need to create definitions for validate and implementation. So let's go ahead and right click, create those. Not exactly sure where it's going to put them. So let's go ahead and find it. Oh, right here. Which actually, yeah, that's pretty much where we want it. Alright, so in our implementation function, which is what's going to run when it actually returns true, make sure, like, if it validated, so we call it our function, in which case that's going to call in turn validate it, so make sure everything's fine, which we want it to return true, just so we don't really have any sort of checking that we're going to bother with. And if the validate function returns true, it's going to in turn run the implementation function. And this is where you would have your actual code, in which case in here, we just check to confirm that we are the authority. And if so, we simply call our lower stamina, which is somewhere up, yeah, right here. So server, lower stamina, we're going to do if get owner role equals role authority, lower stamina by the value passed in. So let's go ahead and set up to call that server lower stamina, pass in value, and we're going to go ahead and build. Alrighty. So now in our survival character.cpp, when we start sprinting, we are going to be calling, so starting a timer that is going to be calling our lower stamina function. So let's go ahead and create a timer and a handle. So where's the, okay, here's our variables. All right, so we're gonna create a variable f timer handle sprinting handle. That's gonna be for when we start sprinting. Make sure we have our timer header included, which we do not. So hashtag include timer manager. And okay. So pause our sprinting timer. Unpause our sprinting timer. So then when that's running, let's see, we're going to be calling a function to, pretty much when we call a function here, we want to pause our timer that is continually regenerating, which is stamina handle. So generates stamina. Yeah, whatever. Just little mini notes. Okay. So let's go ahead and call lower stamina. Well, actually, we need to start our timer first. So where's begin play? We do not have our begin play. So what we can do is, I don't remember what gets passed in. No, I don't think anything actually gets passed into begin play. We can just do virtual void begin play and override it. And do it right underneath our input component setup. Void a survival character begin play. And do super begin play. And this should be our begin play function. Alright, what I forget. Okay, I guess that's just an IntelliSense issue. Alright, so we're going to create our timer. So get world, get timer manager, dot set timer. Suppose it's sprinting time, no, sprinting handle. This a survival character. What was it that I wanted to set? Trying to think. I don't think I can get a reference to that component from here, so just actually maybe I can. What was this called? Player stack component. Alright, maybe not. Actually, view player stack component. Lower stamina. But that takes in a parameter. I'm trying to think, how do you do timers with parameters? I don't know. I remember there being a one in the list with like a delegate, but I can't remember how to set that up. 1.0 and true. Then we're going to pause it. And we're going to have to change this up a little bit because this does in fact take in a parameter, so we can't use it directly, at least not in this format. So let's think. We can just have a simple handle stamina function here, and we'll just have it set up with that. So where am I? Void handle, and we'll just call handle sprinting. And we will simply call that instead. So we're going to create the definition right below stop sprinting. Void a survival character. Handle sprinting. If B is sprinting, then we want to call our lower stamina function. So player stat comp lower stamina and lower it by I guess we'll lower it by just 1. Nah. And just double it up to 2. Actually, we don't even really need to pause it. Instead, we can just let it run because we're going to do a simple check. So if we are sprinting, then we will simply lower our stamina. But also need to do a check. So because we don't want to actually sprint, so we can do our check here. So if we check if the star stamina is less than X, then we will not set this to true. So if player stat component get stamina is less than or equal to 0, actually we can do it less than or equal to 10. You'll see why here in a second. Remember I said I don't want it to be, so let's say you're not sprinting and your stamina is at 9. Well, you press shift to sprint. I don't want you to be able to sprint until your stamina is back over 10. So 11, for example. If your stamina is at 11, you try to sprint, then you can start sprinting. Ready. Then when we release, automatically, no matter what, we know we're not going to be sprinting. Okay, so if we are sprinting, then we lower stamina by 2. We call lower stamina. Ready? Let's go ahead and just build. And sprint. Alright, so it is going down. However, I do want it to pause this timer. But I need to figure out, I'll set up a little way. I can just put a little function here, void control sprinting timer. I'm just passing a variable. We are sprinting. So if we are sprinting, control sprinting timer. So if we are sprinting, we're pausing that timer. If is sprinting, then we get world, get timer manager, pause timer, and it was stamina handle, I think. Yeah. So we're not going to be regenerating. Else, we're going to unpause it. Then we're going to unpause the timer. So, do start sprinting. If we are in fact sprinting, if it is greater than 10, we want to set sprinting to true. Sorry. Else, actually, no. No. Yeah, no. We'll do an else if. If our stamina is less than or equal to 0, then we want to player stat component is our control sprinting timer. We're going to pass in false. And for here, we're going to pass in true because we are in fact sprinting. Then again, in our stop sprinting function, we're going to pass in false. So this should stop our, control our pausing of our stamina regeneration. So it's a continual, like steady decrementation. So we need to set our stamina value. We never did that. So go to our constructor. Stamina equals 100. And build one more time. Alrighty, let's play. 100. And let's sprint. As you can see, it's going down just like so. And if I let go, it regenerates by 1. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and set that to lower a lot fast. Actually, let's just set this to 15, just to make sure so it does, we can't start sprinting again after it gets, or if it's lower than 10. Let's sprint, get it down to like 6. Right. Now let's press shift. And as you can see, it's doing nothing. Let's press shift again. And it's lowering it. So there is one issue. It is not actually pausing the timer. I need to actually have it pause the timer on the server. I completely forgot about that. But where am I? Make it pause it on the server. Then one thing that I do want to do as well is, where did I put it? Right. So regenerate stamina. Wait, I was literally just looking right at it. Duh. Alright, yeah, that's already doing that. Okay. So we just at some point in this video, we're gonna have to make sure this runs on the server. So it is decrementing and everything just fine. One thing we want to do, let's go ahead and give ourselves the effect of walking and sprinting, just so it's easier for us to also see it. So we can do this by going to our, nope, not that, mannequin, animations, then our idle, run, our little blend animation. So double click it. And if you will see here, this little dot, setting it to 375 is our full sprint point. And we're, I believe, going from 0 to 600 immediately with our speed. So no matter what, like however fast we're moving, we're pretty much always going to be at that sprinting animation. So instead, let's change it to, under the horizontal axis, maximum access value. Set this to 600. As you will see, what we want to do is have it So our walking speed is going to be at 300. Then once we hold shift to sprint, our walking speed, well, our speed in general is going to be going to 600. Let's go ahead and save. Under our EPP, find our move forward. Then under, well, right above our add movement input, we're going to do if B is sprinting. Actually, if we are not sprinting, we're going to do value times equals 0.5. So it's pretty much just going to cut it in half. So put it to 300 instead of 600. Then do the exact same thing here. Otherwise, it's not going to do anything, and we're going to be at our full value. So for example, Control-Shift-B to build. And as you can see, I'm walking. I hold shift, sprinting, release, walking, just like so. So that's all you need to do there. I'll go ahead and just save. So we kind of have our sprinting set up, but we still have a few minor little issues. I can go ahead and get rid of these comments since we don't need them. Went a different route with it. As I said in the very first video, I'm kind of just doing this on the fly. So this is by no means the best methods. Alrighty, so sprinting, that is continually being run. Okay, no, yeah, duh. Okay, so when we start sprinting, we want control sprinting timer. We need this to run on the server, so let's go ahead and set that up. I don't know why I did that. Void server control sprinting timer. Bool is sprinting. And at this point, I'm just going to copy it. So change the first return type to bool. Do underscore with, or wait, sorry, validate. And then do, for the last one, implementation. Let's go ahead and create the definitions. Return true. And head over to them. And where did they put it? And here they are. Go ahead and move them down a little bit. So if get owner role equals role authority, then we call control sprinting timer and pass in is sprinting. So if get owner role is less than role authority, then we will call server control sprinting timer and pass in our is sprinting parameter and return. Otherwise, we know that this is going to be the authority, so just because why not? Else if get owner role equals role authority, then it's going to control our timer. Alrighty. I don't know why I'm just double checking even though I just looked at it. Okay, so yeah, we're good there. Alrighty, so that should set us up so it will only well, it'll pause our timer on the server. Sprint. Stop sprinting. And I'm trying to sprint, but I cannot. until it hit 11, just like so. Okay, so we're good there. Let's go ahead and test quickly on a dedicated. No. Alright, let's open up Cheat Engine. Change the type to float. Search for 30, 32, 33. Alright, here's our stamina. I'm setting my mouse. Alright, set it to 100. Yep, and as you can see, the server is setting itself back down because the server is in complete control of it. Alright. So we know that is our stamina is now completely controlled by the server, so that is good. And we have our simple stamina system set up so we can control it for things like jumping. So actually, yeah, I don't think it's been super long, probably only a half hour since I started recording. We can go ahead and actually set it up to do that. So yeah, we'll do the same thing. If our stamina is greater than, let's say 10, then we will actually jump. So, yep. Alright, in our character, let's create a jump function. Void. Attempt jump. I know the names are absolutely atrocious, but sorry. Void a survival character. Attempt jump. Then under our input component, we're going to be changing our, first off, the class that we're referring to. Actually, not this drop jumping, sorry. A survival character, we're changing this to attempt jump. So when we press spacebar, we're going to be calling our attempt jump function. And our attempt jump function is going to be doing this. So if player stat component get stamina is greater than 10, then we will jump. Simple as that. But let's make it lower our stamina a bit. Let's make it actually just drop it by 10. So if we did in fact jump like so, player stat component, lower stamina, and we're going to lower it by 10. Now we also need to do our check and see if we're in the air for this. So otherwise, as you will see here in a second, if you watch, I can spam the spacebar. Well, I can't just spam this. Well, I'm trying to jump, but I can't. So that's working properly. But if I spam the spacebar, I'm going to wait till I get to like 23 stamina so I can show you. It will continually lower the stamina even while we're in the air. So like this, as you saw, I pretty much continue to jump. So we should have a function in our movement component, I think it's in the movement component. Let's look and see. View movement component. Search for falling. Check fall. No. Pretty sure it's literally just an is falling. There's start falling. Oh, yeah. We're in the bolt is falling. So all we have to do is check and get our movement component, and then check our is falling. We'll call the is falling function. So let's see here. I guess first we'll do that. And we need to get our movement component. Do we already have a reference to it? No. Alrighty, so let's see here. Actually, store it. Where's that here? Wait, no. Here we are. So U movement component, and our, let's see, begin play. I'll just do it in there. Wait. Actually, we do have one. Get character movement. Never mind. We can call that function. Apparently, that's part of the character class, I guess. So, and get character movement is falling. So we want to check this as false. So if we are not falling, then we can call our jump function and lower our stamina in turn. So let's go ahead and increase our, let's just set it to 20 so we can still test easier. So now when I spam spacebar while we're in the air, our stamina should not lower, it should only lower for that initial jump. Alrighty. Wait for that to hit like 23 and test it. And as you can see, it only made our stamina lower when we are on the ground. And we cannot sprint until our stamina gets above 10. Yep, just like so. And it'll continue to sprint, hopefully until we reach 0. I don't remember if I did a check for that, which I did not. Alright, so let's go ahead and add that in. So, do CPP for our character. And I'm trying to think, and our handle sprinting function is continually running. So let's see, our sprinting, actually. Yeah, so in here, if player stat component get stamina, if our stamina is less than or equal to 0, then we call our stop sprinting function, just like so. And now it should force us to stop sprinting. Jump. Start sprinting, and when it hits 0, we should stop sprinting. Yep, just like so. And just so it doesn't actually drop to the negative point, we can do a little check in our stat component, well, our lower stamina function. If stamina minus value is, or derp, less than 0, then stamina equals 0. Else, we simply lower our stamina. So jump. And it should just go right to 0 and stop. Yep. Can't jump, can't sprint. So I'd say we're good to go. So at this point, we should now have a functioning hunger and thirst and stamina system, as well as, well, sprinting. So I guess in the next video, we will either be doing health, which I already have a video on. It's literally going to be essentially this again, just with the implementation of a take damage function. And we'll be setting that up in different ways. Actually, I'll probably, yeah. Instead, we'll actually be doing I'll make a couple items in Blender for food and water. So let's say you pick up a can of food and eat it. Your hunger will increase, and same thing with the thirst if you pick up and use a water bottle. So I guess we'll be doing that in the next one. So I'll just do a quick run through of what we've done. So when you press shift, a start sprinting function is called. And if our stamina is greater than 10, we want to set a control variable to true, which will be used to control our movement. And if our stamina is less than 10, we will pause our control sprinting timer. Wait, that doesn't do that, does it? Control sprinting timer. False. Okay, so I got that backwards for whatever reason. So if our stamina is less than 10, it's going to be essentially what we did for our stop sprinting function, which is calls our control sprinting timer function and pass in the parameter as false. So it is going to unpause our stamina timer, meaning it's going to regenerate our stamina. Like it's going to continue to regenerate our stamina. But if we are sprinting, we're going to call that same function but pass in true, which means it is going to pause our stamina regeneration as our stamina is getting lowered by us sprinting. Then when we release our shift key to stop sprinting, we set our control variable to false and do the exact same thing again. We're going to unpause our regeneration timer so our stamina will regenerate. Then we have a timer set up in our begin play here that is calling handle sprinting, literally just 24/7. So if we are in fact sprinting, then we're going to be lowering our stamina by 2 each second, because that's how, well, this function is going to be getting called once every second. And if our stamina is less than or equal to 0, we're going to call our stop sprinting function, which is already set up for us. It changes our control variable, which means we're going to stop sprinting, as well as it unpauses our regeneration timer automatically, just like before, as if we were to let go of shift. Now as for jumping, we check if our stamina is greater than 10. So we want our stamina to be above 10 for us to jump. So we want to check for that, as well as we want to make sure we are not falling, so we are not already in the air. And thankfully our get character movement component automatically has that set up for us. So all we have to do is call our isFalling function. And if both of those conditions are true, we jump. And we also lower our stamina by 10, meaning our jump took us, well, requires 10 stamina to jump. So that's really all there is to it. It's not super complicated, relatively simple. And this is all going to be kind of set up on the server. So because of like all the things such as your input are being run on the client, such as, I'm completely blind, here it is. So because our things such as our input is calling this function, meaning it is only going to be called on the client as of right now, it's going to be setting our isSprinting variable to true on the client. So that's going to be kind of, we should probably actually set this up in the future to be on the server as well. But in turn, that's going to be running all this, damn it, on the client. So on the client, it's going to check if we are sprinting. And if we in fact are sprinting, we're going to be calling our lower stamina function on the client. And in turn, where am I? And in turn, it's going to check if we are not the server, which is going to be true for our case because we are not the client. I mean, not the server. Like I said, we are the client. So since that case is going to be true, we're going to call from the client a function to run on the server called server lower stamina, which is simply going to check, well, since we're calling from the client on the server, it should be running on the server, but we're going to do a quick check anyways to make sure in fact we are the server, just to double check. And we're going to recall ourselves. So pretend this is lower stamina. So we've called lower stamina again, but this time from the server. So we went from the client to the server, and then the server recalled that function again, which means this is now going to be is going to be false, but we're not going to run this. Instead, we're going to run this because we are the server, so our role is the authority. So since our role is the authority, we're going to be lowering our stamina only on the server and not the client. And because our stamina is replicated, that means since our stamina is being lowered on the server set the value for the stamina, and our client is going to receive that value. Meaning, if our server lowers our stamina from 100 to 98, our client is going to now have the stamina value of 98 because our server set it that way. Same deal for our thirst and hunger. It's relatively straightforward. This is not the greatest way. I'm still fairly new to Unreal Engine, but hopefully this is kind of a good enough introduction so far to where it makes sense and you can start kind of piecing it together yourself and doing it in a little bit cleaner of a way. But yeah, as stated, next video we should be covering eating and drinking to increase our hunger and thirst. So I'll just see you then.